Hi Air 9, hope you're well. We're all done with our transformations for now. We'll probably work on them if we go back to school this year, and if not, we will work on them again in year 10. So for now, we're going to move on to another topic. This new topic that we're going to talk about this week is called standard form. Now, you might have seen this or heard about it before in science, and if you haven't, that's really not a big deal. We'll start learning about it this week. We'll do it nice and slowly so there's nothing to panic about. So your title for today's lesson is standard form. If you've got your exercise book, you can write that down along with the title, or sorry, the date for today, and then you can go ahead and get started on these 10 questions. So if you're watching this on the YouTube video, now would be a really good time to go ahead and press pause so you can do these 10 questions, and then the answers will come up on the PowerPoint if you're also looking at the PowerPoint. All right, go ahead. All right, you might be wondering, what is standard form? And standard form is something that we use to represent very, very, very large numbers, usually ones that have lots of zeros in them, or very, very small numbers that have lots of zeros at the beginning of the number, and then a very tiny decimal afterwards. And a number in standard form looks like this fancy number right here. So this number right here is in standard form. So a number that's in standard form, the very, very first number is always going to be a number that is between 1 and 10. So it's only ever going to be a single digit number right here, and then there might be a decimal, that's absolutely fine, but the first number is always going to be a number that's between 1 and 10. So 6 is absolutely between 1 and 10. It's going to be between 1 and 10, which means it cannot be the number 10. So if we had a 10 here, that would not be all right. Some other numbers we could have other than 6.7, we could have something like 7.8, or we could have something like 9.9992. We can have lots of decimals, that's absolutely fine. We just can't have a number like 12.2. Nor could we have something like 10.1, because there's two numbers here in front of the decimal, and there's two numbers here. So those ones are no good. We can only have numbers that are between 1 and almost 10. So the other bit about standard form is the second part, and it's always some number times by 10, it has to be 10 to the power of some number. And all of the little powers that we're going to look at today are going to be a positive number. And then later on this week, we'll get into some fancier things with some other numbers. So we always have a number here that is between 1 and 10, and then times by 10 to the power of something else, and that is a number in standard form. So we've got some options down here. It says, which of these are in standard form? So let's look at this first one. The first one says 4.5. 4.5 is between 1 and 10, so that sounds good, and it's also times by 10 to the power of 2. Yep, that's great. That's definitely in standard form. The next one says 67 times by 10 to the power of 9. Well, 67, is that a number that's between 1 and 10? No, that's definitely not. So that one is not in standard form. What about this next one? We've got 9 times by 10 to the power of minus 8. Well, it doesn't look exactly like the example that we were looking at. It has a negative, but that is absolutely fine. 9 is a number between 1 and 10, and then we have times by 10 to the power. So that is absolutely fine. All right, moving on to the fourth example, we've got 1.2657 times by 10 to the power of 6. So the power looks absolutely great. And what about this number here, 1.2657? That is definitely between 1 and 10. It starts with a 1 right there. So yeah, that one's good as well. And let's look at this very last one. We've got 0.087 times 10 to the power of 3. So the power, that looks absolutely fine. What about this number here, though? 0.087. Is 0 between 1 and 10? I don't think so. I don't think that one's in standard form. All right, so let's just double check these. So this one is yes, that's in standard form. No, that one's not. Yes, that one is. Yes, that one is. And no, that one is not. Alright, so in order for me to write these numbers in standard form, I need to take a look at the numbers. So the first number says 80,000. I need to write the number 80,000 in standard form. So if I think about the number 80,000, at the end of the 80,000, there's actually a decimal. Now, what I want to do is I want to move that decimal, and I want to move it until the number that's in front of the decimal is between 1 and 10. So let's see, if I start moving it, if I move it here, is this number here between 1 and 10? No, that number is 8,000. That's not between 1 and 10. What if I move it again? What if I move it to here? Is this number between 1 and 10? Unfortunately, 800 is not between 1 and 10. What if I move it again? What if I move it right here? Is the number 80 between 1 and 10? It's not. So I have to move it again. I move it so it's right here. Is the number 8 between 1 and 10? Yes, it is. So I can write this 8, and then I need to think about how many places did the decimal move. It moved 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to do 8 times by 10 to the power of 4. And that's it. I've written the number in standard form. All right, let's try the next question. The next question is 9,000. We want to write 9,000 in standard form. So at the end of the number 9,000, because there's no decimals afterwards, there's an invisible decimal that lives at the end of the number. It is usually there, we just don't write it. Or it's always there, we just don't write it. So we need to move this decimal so that there is a number in front of the decimal between 1 and 10. So I'm going to move it, and let's see. If we move it here, that's 900. If we move it here, that's 90. If I move it here, that's 9. So that's where it needs to stop. So it's going to be 9 times by, let's see how many places it moved. It moved 1, 2, 3. So 9 times 10 to the power of 3. All right, hopefully something that I'm saying is making sense. If it's not, you can always email me, or you can send me a little message on ePraise when you try to upload your work. I'm not really sure, but you just need to let me know if this is not making any sense. So this next question, question C, says 300,000. We need to write 300,000 in standard form. Now remember, at the end of every single number, there's a decimal. Okay, so we've got 300,000 and no decimals after that. So we need to move this until this decimal place until it gets to be so that we have a number that is just between 1 and 10. So when we start moving it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go 3 times by 10 to the power of 5. All right, let's keep on going. We'll try the last question as well. The last one says 60,000. So in the beginning of the year, I made you write out numbers from words. So 60,000 looks like 60 and then 30 for thousands. So 60,000. So we need to write this in standard form. So remember, 60,000 full stop, and then we see how many places that has to move. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 times by 10 to the power of 4. Now, like I said earlier, hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, you need to let me know. You need to send me an email. That would be the best way. Miss Strangers, I still don't get this. Or leave me a comment on the YouTube video or something, okay? All right, these next 4 questions are the exact same idea. They just have some extra numbers in them and a few less zeros. So the first one is 8,500. So we have to look at 8,500. There's like, if that was money, it's 8,500 and no pennies. So I need to find out how many places does the decimal have to move. So it moves here, that's 1, but 850 is not between 1 and 10. If I move it again, that's 2, but 85 is not between 1 and 10. And then if I move it one more time, I get 8.5. And 8.5 is definitely between 1 and 10. So I have 8.5 times by 10 to the power of, let's count how many times did this move. Moved 1, 2, 3. So 10 to the power of 3. All right, question B. it says 931,000. So 931,000 and no change at the end of it. So we need to figure out where does that decimal need to go. Now hopefully you can see it needs to make its way all the way over here. So it needs to get between the 9 and the 3 so we can have 9.31. And so we need to see how many places did it go. It went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 9.31 times 10 to the power of 5. All right, let's try this next one. The next one is 3,450,000. That is a big number. But again, we'll do the same thing we've been doing this whole time. So we've got full stop at the end, and we need to get it to be all the way over here so that it's between the 3 and the 4, because 3.4 is a number between 1 and 10. So let's see how many places it had to move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3.45 times 10 to the power of 6. All right, and the last one is quite a small number, but just to show you, it still works with small numbers as well. So 1,250, and we need to get that to be 1.25. And that's going to go 1, 2, 3. So 1.25 times 10 to the power of 3. All right. All right, the other thing that's really important to know is that if your calculator or if the question tells you the answer is 4 times by 10 to the power of 2, it's really important that you know what that number actually means. So we have to write these numbers that are in standard form as just regular, ordinary numbers. So the first one says 4 times 10 to the power of 2. So I like to think about that as 4 point. And then what has to happen is the decimal is going to move 2 places because we've got 2 powers. So 1, 2. And we have to fill both of those circles in with zeros. So the answer is 400. Another way that you can think about this is 4 times by 10 squared, which is 100. 4 times by 100 is 400. All right, the next question says 5 times 10 to the power of 7. So that's 5, and then the decimal's normally right after the 5, and it has to move 7 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And all of those need to be filled in with zeros, and then we can write it a little bit more nicely. So we've got 5 with 7 zeros. Okay? Same thing with the next question. We've got 9 times 10 to the power of 3. So that is 9. And then we need 3 spaces. So we can fill that in. And that's going to give us 9,000. All right. And the last question, question D, says 2 times 10 to the power of 1. So it's 2 full stop. And that only has to move 1 place. So that just needs 1 placeholder, which is 20. All right, the last 4 examples from me today, the same idea as what we just did. We're still looking at writing these numbers that are in standard form as just regular, ordinary numbers. So these ones just have decimal. They have some extra decimals in them, some numbers after the decimal, to be fair. That's the only thing that makes these more complicated. So the first one says 4.5 times 10 to the power of 3. So we've got 4.5. And then we need to move everything 3 spaces or 3 digits, or 3 places. 1, 2, 3. So this time we don't need to fill it in with 3 zeros. This time we only need 2 zeros because the 5 was already holding one of the places. So this answer is 4,500. Okay, for question B, it says 1.25 times 10 to the power of 5. So I'm going to rewrite that, 1.25. And I have to move the decimal 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you can see, I need 3 zeros to fill that in. So it's 1, 2, 5, 0, 0, 0. All right, question C, we got lots of decimal places this time. 7.859, and that is times 10 to the power of 7. So I need to move 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need these digits here to be filled with zeros. So we've got 7, 8, 5, 9, and 4 zeros. All right, and last but not least, we've got 6.0 times 10 to the power of 2. So 6.0, and then we have to move it 2 places. 1, 2. So we need 1 placeholder this time. The answer is 600. All right, I'm really hoping that made some sense to you. If it didn't, please let me know any way that you can. I'll remember to post my email address again. There are some questions for you to do on the PowerPoint after this. Some of the questions you can just fill in the answers, and some of them you actually have to type your whole answer in. Okay, if you do this on a phone or on a piece of paper, make sure you take a picture of it and then that you upload it onto ePraise so I can see your work. All right, thanks. Bye.